Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be diving into vendor credit. We're going to be talking about this secret ingredient for any business to start to get approved for real business credit. Now the reason I wanted to do this webinar today is twofold. First of all, I find that a lot of people get stuck building business credit on the very first step. This is where most mistakes are made, and as a result of making so many mistakes on this step, it brings me to the second reason I wanted to do this webinar. There's a lot of skeptics out there. There's still a lot of people out there that either don't know what business credit is, don't think it works, or again, don't think it works because they failed, because they messed up this crucial step. So today we're going to dive in and dissect this, because when you get vendor credit, when you understand how this works, and you're able to go out and secure vendor credit, building business credit really isn't that hard. It all comes down to vendor credit. This is where it gets a little sticky. This is where people get stuck. And once you can conquer this aspect of business credit building, then it's really downhill from there. So in this webinar, we're going to dive in. We're going to start talking about why business credit works, so you can really relate to the fact that it actually does work. And then we're going to end up in this webinar going through exactly how you can get vendor accounts, even talking about real vendors that you can get to get started on your own business credit profile and score. So before we get in too far, let me introduce myself. My name is Ty Crandall. I'm actually the Director of Business Services here at Credit Suite. What we do is we help customers get business credit and financing. I believe that we are by far the biggest producer of business credit services in this country. We have nearly 600 partners in almost every state around the United States that offer business credit services, and we help thousands and thousands of people every year to do this. So I'm telling you this not to brag or to boast. I just want you to know that I have vast experience in this area. I've overseen one of the biggest operations in business credit building, and we see thousands and thousands of clients obtain business credit in large part due to the steps that we outline here. If you're interested in talking to us or working with us or learning more about business credit and financing, feel free to check us out. There's our website creditsuite.com/business credit. There's not going to be a pitch in this webinar today. You're not going to be sold anything. All I'm going to do is give you an hour's worth of solid information that's actionable information you could use. But again, if you are interested at all in offering business credit as a service and offering financing as a service or getting either one for your business, feel free to reach out. There's our contact phone number, my personal email, and there's a website you can check out, creditsuite.com/business credit. That being said, how do you really start the business credit building process? Well, I want to start this webinar with something pretty weird. I've never done this before. I don't even like to start anything with a negative, but I'm actually going to do so here because I started chatting back and forth with somebody who had left a comment on one of my YouTube videos, I think a week or 2 weeks ago. And I thought it would be great just to show his comment because although a lot of people aren't as rash and aren't as upfront as he is, very nice gentleman, a lot of people still have the same concern, and they voice it to me one way or the other. And here it is. This is exactly a quote from a webinar that I have up on how to build credit for an EIN. I think the actual video is how to get credit for an EIN without a personal credit check or guarantee and without having to use your social security number. So here was the response in his comment. Not true. If you don't have great deal of money that your company has earned and you haven't been in business for several years, you must personally guarantee. They, the banks, credit card companies, will be checking your social security number. It's a fact. Been there, done that, was sitting at the banks. I thought they would simply use my tax ID and I could get the card's funds based on my corp. Nope. Once I repaired my credit and increased my score, only then was I ready to talk business. Mostly all these guys on YouTube are trying to trick you and sell some sort of ebook or course. Well, let me give you a guarantee. I'm not trying to sell you an ebook or course today, okay, just so you know that. And surprisingly, although this was very upfront, I don't think he expected me to respond to his comment, which I did, and we started conversing back and forth. Very nice guy. He's just been beat up down this road, as a lot of people have. He, like many people, have tried to build business credit and fail. So why did this happen? Why is it that so many people don't know about business credit and other people try and it doesn't work and they have to provide their social security number? They have to provide the guarantee. Well, let me first address that a lot of people face the exact same problem. They try but fail to build business credit. And one of the main reasons that this happens is that they apply for credit in the wrong order. Okay, so by applying in the wrong order for the wrong type of credit in the wrong place first, the result will always be the same. You get declined. So by the wrong order, I mean you can't go to your bank and start trying to build your business credit. That's not how business credit really works. So to give you an easy comparison of how business credit works in a way that you can easily relate, let's look at how consumer credit is built, how your personal credit with TransUnion, with Equifax, with Experian really is built. Well, just because you have a social security number doesn't mean that you have a credit profile. Okay, for example, every child in this country is born with a social security number, okay, but they don't actually establish credit for that social until they apply for new credit, are approved, and that credit is reported to the consumer credit reporting agencies. My kids, perfect example. I have a little 3-year-old girl and I have a 5-year-old boy. Both of them have social security numbers. They got it at birth. Okay, I have their social security cards. But if I ran a credit report on either one of my kids, neither one of them would have a credit report established. Because even though they're born and given a social in this country, that social doesn't automatically come preloaded with a credit profile and score, as we most obviously all of us know. Okay, you have to go out and when they get old enough, let's say they're 18 years old, and whether I co-sign on a vehicle for them or they get a credit card, well then it's that process of them applying for credit, getting approved, and that credit reporting to the consumer credit reporting agencies like Equifax, like Experian, and like TransUnion that actually gives them the credit profile. Okay, so when credit's applied for, approved, and reported, then and only then will any individual have an established credit profile and score. And once accounts are reported to the consumer agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and of course there are more, but these are the 3 big ones that most of us are accustomed to, then after 6 months, FICO will issue them a consumer credit score. Okay, if you want to know what it takes to get a FICO score, I just taught you. FICO requires that you have a trade line that reports for 6 months for them to give you a score. That means if you go out and get a secured credit card today, you have no credit profile and score, then 3 months from now, you'll still have no profile and score. You'll have no score. You would have that account reported, so you would have a profile established, but FICO won't even give you a score until that account's been 6 months or longer. So you got an account, you applied, you got approved, it got reported. Now 6 months later, FICO will issue you a consumer credit score. So here's a deeper look at this process. First, credit's applied for. Second, the applicant's approved for credit that reports to the reporting agencies. Thirdly, the credit's reported, and what we call in the lending industry trade lines are now established. And the trade line is just an account that reports. It's just an open trade that you have. So that's what we call trade lines. So once these report, then you have trade lines that are established. And as multiple of these accounts are reported, a credit profile is established, meaning somebody can now pull your credit and see accounts, one account or multiple accounts reported that are linked to your social security number. And finally, due to the reporting of trade lines and establishment of a credit profile, enough information is now available after 6 months for FICO to issue you a credit score. This is how you start a consumer credit profile, okay? Now that we've looked at this process and we've seen how it works, let's look deeper into how it actually starts. Somebody who has no trade lines reporting has no credit profile or score, period. Just like my son Cash, he has no credit profile and score established even though he has a social because he's never had credit. He's never had credit that's linked to his name and social report to the credit reporting agencies. So this person was to walk into a bank and try to get a credit card or loan, mortgage, or even financing, their credit would be pulled. So what's going to happen is you go into the bank, you have no trade lines, no credit profile, no credit score reporting, and the bank then pulls that credit profile. But due to a lack of credit, they would deny financing. all types of financing. You wouldn't get approved for a mortgage. You wouldn't get approved for a car loan. You wouldn't get approved for a credit card. You couldn't walk into your bank with no credit profile and get anything at all. Most of them won't even give you a secured credit card because you have no credit profile, no trade lines, and no score. Even if you have a social, you'd still get denied. But if that same person walked in and applied for, let's say, a store credit, like a Staples credit card, or Lowe's, or Home Depot, or Walmart, or Target, they all give you like 20% discounts when you apply, right? So it's enticing. Or other retailer, well, guess what? They're still going to get denied due to a lack of credit. Because you can't walk into Walmart and start a credit profile. If my son turns 18 and he walks into Walmart, excuse me, I have my dog barking in the background, then Walmart would ultimately deny him for the credit because they look at his credit profile and score, see he has none, and they will not approve him. So this is how credit works, okay? When you go to your actual store, when you go to the bank with a lack of a credit profile score, very thin or none, your outcome is you will be denied. But if that same person obtained a secured credit card or two and waited until those accounts did report and 6 months later they had a FICO score, well then they'd have to report to trade lines, they would have an established credit profile, and they'd have an established credit score. And this makes them lendable. This makes them into a position where somebody will give them money. So if they now went into that same store to get credit with their established credit profile and score, and if they paid their bills as agreed, then they went to a bank even and got a $5,000 credit card, then they would still probably be declined. But at a store, they would actually be approved. So let me kind of go back because I jumped into the second point too quickly. So if this person now has a trade line, has a profile, has a score, goes to Walmart, applies, they're probably going to get approved. Walmart sees a 650 credit score, Walmart sees 2 or 3 trade lines, paid as agreed, they're going to approve them. But if that person went into their bank and tried to get a credit card for $5,000, the bank's probably still going to deny them. Because even though they have some established credit, the profile's still too thin for a bank's liking for them to actually issue the person real money. So again, this is how it works. They went into the store, they got denied, they had no credit. They went into the bank, they got denied, they had no credit. Now the person starts to get some credit established. Now they can take the next step of going into stores and getting credit cards, but they're still not ready yet to go into a bank until they get even more credit established. Well, guess what? Fundamentally, consumer and business credit work exactly the same way. Everything I've outlined to you so far is exactly the same in the consumer world as it is in the business world. Just because you have an EIN does not mean you have established credit. Just the same as you don't have established credit just because you have a social. You're given a social security number. It's not preloaded with credit. You're given an EIN number. It's not preloaded with credit. Both of them fundamentally are the exact same that way. So if you walk into a bank to try to get cash credit using your EIN with no credit established, you'll always get denied. Guaranteed. The exact same as if you tried to walk into that bank with no credit profile and tried to get consumer credit. That is, unless you did have good personal credit and used it to get approved while supplying your personal guarantee. So this is where this myth comes into play, that you have to have good personal credit and provide your social to get business credit. Where people mess up is they go into a store, they go into a bank, they try to apply with no credit profile and score, and the source says, no, you can't get approved. You have no credit. We need your social. Then they supply their social. Then they get approved. Now they're convinced you can only get business credit with a social. But that's not true at all. The problem is they tried to apply for credit using an EIN that had no credit established, so the outcome was going to be a denial before they ever even tried to apply. So this is why so many people fail building business credit. They apply for the wrong type of credit first, get denied, then are convinced that business credit doesn't work. But let's look again at that initial example, that quote that I actually mentioned. Here was the quote again. They, the banks, credit card companies, will be checking your social. It's a fact. Been there, done that. I was sitting at the banks first mistake. He walked into the banks first, and he thought they would, and here it is, I thought they would simply use my tax ID number and I could get the cards based on my corp. Nope. Of course you couldn't get it. Your EIN is worthless unless you've built credit for the EIN. So that's the problem here, and this is a really good example. And for just so you know, as I actually went into a conversation with this individual, he confirmed that is what happened. He did go into his bank. He didn't have established credit. He tried applying for business credit at his bank first. The outcome was denial, as we would all expect. He then became convinced that the issue was personal credit. He then, instead of building business credit, focused on fixing his personal credit, circled back around, and still provided his Social Security number and personal guarantee, and never even really secured real business credit as a result, because he tried to do it at the banks and then got convinced that business credit didn't work. Now, I'm just reciting one example here, but again, a lot of people basically tell me the same thing, whether it be responses to my YouTube channel videos, whether it be an email that I get. They say, I tried to go to my bank, I tried to go to Walmart to get business credit, they denied me, and I really thought I would get it because I have an EIN. Well, again, just because you have an EIN doesn't mean you have a credit profile. You actually don't. You have to build a credit profile to then use that EIN to start getting real money. So, of course, the bank won't approve you for cards or funds. The EIN has no established credit. So the same as if you tried to walk into that bank with no social, they wouldn't give you money then either. So consumer and credit business and building, consumer and credit business credit building are just that. They're the building of credit. You can't start with the roof. You have to start with the foundation, first off, to build off of. So you can't start with store or cash credit from your bank. If you do, you'll get denied 100% of the time. Guaranteed. My promise. You cannot walk into Walmart, Lowe's, Staples, Home Depot with no business or consumer credit profile and expect to get approved for a consumer or business card. If you walk in and try to get a consumer card with no credit established using your social, you'll be denied. If you walk in using your EIN with no credit established, you're going to get denied. First, you have to build the trade lines that report. Then you have an established credit profile. Then you'll obtain a business credit score. And finally, with an established profile and score, you can start getting revolving store credit and cash credit, which is what most people really want. So let's look at some well-known companies' business credit. Here's, for example, a real quick look at Apple. Okay, this is what Apple's Experian basically trade lines look like. They have 138 reporting trade lines. Now, why am I showing you this? Because there's a common theme I really want you to understand. It is impossible in this country to build a highly successful business without business credit. It won't happen. And this is why you cannot name to me any successful company in this country that's really successful at this level or even a little bit below this level that doesn't have business credit. It's a way of life because these CEOs aren't personally guaranteeing all of their business debt. It becomes impossible. You get to a point where you can't provide your social or personal credit to be signing on tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars worth of credit for your business. So if you look at a Steve Jobs of the world when he was around, he wasn't personally guaranteeing Apple's debt because Apple had a credit profile. You can see right here. It took them about 30 years to get to this point, actually about 40 years, but they have 138 credit trade lines reported just to Experian. This doesn't even count how many other trade lines they have reporting to Dun & Bradstreet. So if we look at Walmart, for example, they have 513 trade lines established. Most people don't know this, but 80% of the total cash injection that goes into Walmart comes from business credit. It comes from business credit. They are a perfect shining example of a company that wisely used business credit to get as big as they are. It's one of the reasons they're one of the biggest retailers in the world. Now, if you think about this, Walmart and Apple have been around about the same time. I think there's less than 8 years, maybe less than 5 years between the inception of these two companies. But yet one has 513 trades, One has 138. This is just one company being very good at using other people's money to grow. Microsoft, 131 trade lines. Okay, Facebook has been around, what, less than a decade. They have 40 established trade lines. This is why I'm telling you that any company of real success has business credit. It's a requirement. You can't get that big using your own personal credit, your own personal social to keep getting money for your business to grow at this level. At some point, your business outgrows you. Your business outgrows your ability to get funding and credit to support it. It gets so big. Let me give you another example, or go back. Walmart's highest trade line on Dun & Bradstreet is $50 million. Okay, there's no way that any of the Waltons are personally guaranteeing a $50 million credit line. This is why a business gets so big and so successful that it outgrows the actual owner. The owner's credit can't support it anymore. This is why every successful company has business credit. Okay, so every highly successful company in the U.S. has business credit. And like I said, Walmart's highest credit limit is $50 million. But none of these companies started at that limit and were given this many trade lines. None of them. Okay, none of them just started with these ridiculously high credit limits they have now. All of them followed a process to establish their business credit. And that credit grew with them as their business grew. And this is what most people don't know. Most people look at this and say, Ty, that's great. Congratulations. You showed me Walmart has 513 trade lines. They're Walmart, and I'm this little podunk company that does, $50,000 a year in revenue. Guess what? Walmart was too at one time. So was Apple. So was Microsoft. And most of us being entrepreneurs, we know the histories of these companies. Okay, we live off of them. We know about Steve Jobs building his first computer in his garage. Okay, we've heard these success stories, and it's what drives us to want to be successful. These companies started just like you and I did, and their companies grew, and they got money as their companies grew to help them grow the exact same as you can for your business. So let's look at some of these guys. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Richard Branson, okay? Obviously, none of them are recently personally guaranteeing their business debts. Obviously, there's a world where they don't need to. There's a world where their companies stand alone without them, where they don't need to be there to sign on the application or provide their social security number. And the truth is, you can do exactly the same thing as all of them have done. Okay, when their business went out and got a credit line, they didn't need to provide their social and personally guarantee the debt, the same as you don't need to. Okay, but many people might think that they get credit because they're big companies. And this is where it becomes easy to think. You say, Ty, look, this is Walmart, this is Apple, this is Microsoft. They walk into a bank and say, I'm Microsoft, give me money, and people give them money. No, that's not true. No bank goes, hey, Microsoft, here's money. They go through the exact same process of getting money as you do or I do. They go into their bank pulls their business credit. Their bank has an application filled out. They go through the exact same process of getting money that we do. Yes, their names have a lot of credibility, but the process of them getting approved is no different than the guy that just started their business is. But the reality is the issuing of credit doesn't work this way and never really has. These entrepreneurs get credit without a personal guarantee because their company's credit can stand on its own, not just because they have an EIN. But because that EIN has these established trade lines that I've shown you, and now that they have these established trade lines, now they can continue to get more and more and more credit. That's how business credit building really, really works. Okay, the real key to getting business credit is to establish a solid credit profile and score that can stand on its own so you don't need to supply your social. And once you do this, your business can then be approved for credit with no personal guarantee or credit check, just like every other highly successful company in this country. Don't separate yourself. Don't think it's just because they're big. They follow the exact same process you can follow to build business credit. And as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, your credit profile will get bigger and bigger and bigger with you. So will your credit limits. But again, Just like all of these companies have hundreds of trade lines, they have hundreds because they've been building them for decades. That's what's helped them get this big. They got very smart and very good at using other people's money to grow, and that's exactly what I want you to be able to do for your business. So how do you really start a business credit profile and score? Well, most consumer credit starts with a secured credit card or a well-established cosigner. This is how I got started. I went into basic training, and my father, I'm very blessed to have very loving and good parents. Okay, a lot of people don't have that luxury, and I do not take that for granted. My father co-signed for an old Ford Ranger pickup. It was a 1990 Ford Ranger pickup truck, and it was back in 1995 that I was actually 94 that I was in basic training. And while I was in basic training, he co-signed for my first car for me. That's how I got started. A lot of other people get started with secured credit cards. Okay, but co-signed accounts and secured accounts aren't really popular or widely used in the business world. People ask me quite a bit, can I get a secured business card? Not really. They don't really, I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying I've never seen one. They're out there. I've just never come across one. But that's not really how business credit is started as it is in the consumer credit world. Most business credit starts with what are called vendor accounts instead. You don't go get your parent or somebody else to co-sign. You don't go to get a partner to co-sign. You don't go put $500 down and get a secured card that reports to the business credit reporting agencies. Instead, what you do is you get approved for vendor accounts that report to the business credit reporting agencies. And as you use those vendor accounts, that's what establishes your credit profile and score. So vendor accounts are accounts that typically offer terms such as net 30 instead of revolving. Okay, so if you get approved for $1,000 in vendor credit, use all $1,000. You'll need to pay that money back in a set term, such as within 30 days on a net 30 account. So first of all, there are net 30, there are net 60, there are net 90 accounts. So this means you have 30 days or 60 days or 90 days to pay the account back in its entirety. The most popular kind of net 30 accounts or net accounts are net 30. Most of the accounts you're going to see give you 30 days to pay the balance in full. So if I go out and I get a net 30 account with a company like Uline and I buy shipping supplies and I spend $1,000 with them today, which is the 20th of January, then that means that the 20th of February, I will need to have that full $1,000 I borrowed from them paid back. Now, on a revolving account, as we know, I could borrow $1,000, and then they'll let me pay like $25 a month until I pay it back, and it could take me like 5 or 7 years on the minimum payment to pay it back, but they let me make a minimum payment towards my balance. With a net account, like a net 30, you only have a set term, like 30 days, to pay back the account in its entirety. It's not a revolving account. So a net 30 account would need to be paid in full within 30 days. In contrast, a net 60-day account would need to be paid within 60 days. Unlike with revolving accounts, you have a set time you must pay back what's borrowed or the credit that you've actually used. So a net 30 account would need to be paid back within 30 days. Or so you start your business credit profile the right way. You got to get approved for these vendor accounts that report to the business credit reporting agencies. We've already established you can't start with bank credit, right? You can't start with store credit. So where can you start? Well, it's vendor accounts. Vendors are people that will give you money right away, even if you have no credit profile and score. Okay, then that's what's used as the building block to get your trade lines, get the profile, get the score that's then needed to get the actual store and revolving and cash credit accounts. So once you've done this, you can then use that credit, pay back what you've used. The account gets reported to the 3 reporting agencies, Dun & Bradstreet, Experian, and Equifax. Then once reported, then you have trade lines, you have a credit profile, you have a credit score. So again, we're back to the exact same path you followed to build consumer credit. It's just the only difference here is how you start. Really, it's the only difference. Consumer credit, you start with secured account, co-signed account. Business credit, you start with vendor accounts. You get that one part done, the rest of it pretty much happens the same. You apply, you get vendor credit, you use the credit, it reports to the credit reporting agencies, you have trade lines, you have a profile, you have a score established. So using your newly established business credit profile and score, you can then get approved for store credit and eventually get actual cash credit without needing to supply your social or personal guarantee. It's possible now when it wasn't possible before because now your EIN has a credit profile established. Now it can stand on your own. Now when you go into your bank and go, hey, Mr. Banker, I think you should approve me because I have an EIN. Now he'll go, well, no, I shouldn't. We'll say, well, pull my EIN credit. Then he pulls his EIN credit, comes back and goes, well, actually, we can now approve you because now what we see is that you have trade lines, you have a credit profile, you have a credit score, so now you can start to get approved. And actually, that's a really bad example because you can't make the jump from vendor to cash credit like Visa, MasterCard. You have to get store credit in between, as I'm about to outline. But the bottom line is that now your EIN has a credit profile, has trade lines, has a credit score. It's the profile, trade lines, and score that can now be used to get you further credit, not just the fact that you have the EIN. So if you leave your Social Security number off the application altogether, as you should when you really want business credit, you're pushing them, you're forcing them to pull your EIN credit. And when they see a solid profile and score, then they can approve you for revolving credit because you have a history, trade lines, profile, and score established. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is that when you follow the correct steps to build business credit, not all retailers will approve you just because of your credit profile and score. Some sources, such as Home Depot or Radio Shack, also have a time in business requirement, possibly requiring you to be in business 1 to 3 years to get a no personal guarantee card. Some sources, such as Home Depot, might even want you to have a certain revenue to actually be approved. But again, most retailers will approve you without these requirements. And I hear these comments sometimes from our clients. So for example, one of our clients that sells and offers business credit through us has been around a long time. And he said, you know, Ty, I'm not fond of the fact that you put Home Depot there as an option because we all know it takes a lot to get Home Depot approved. And I said, you're right. That's why in the description we outline a lot of things you have to do to get the no PG Home Depot card and outline that if you don't meet those requirements, you can still get it, but you have to provide a personal guarantee. The bottom line is we provide our clients access to all these accounts. Some of them do require time in business. Most don't, but keep this in mind. Just because now you have the credit profile, you have the score, doesn't mean every single store will approve you. There still are exceptions to rules such as Home Depot, such as Radio Shack, that have time in business requirements, that actually have income requirements in some cases that you have to meet to get no personal guarantee credit. So you have to maybe be in business 3 years to get Home Depot, but that doesn't mean you can't get Lowe's. You can still get Lowe's even if you haven't been in business for 3 years because you have the established credit profile and score. So just keep this in mind. I'm not telling you that every retailer will now give you business credit once you have this. Many will. Some will still not because they have other requirements that are involved. So now you know that any business can get business credit. But before you start revolving credit at stores and cash Visa type credit from sources like banks, you first have to have these trade lines we've talked about reported. So basically, you need credit to get credit. The oh-so-popular lending paradox that so many people get lost in, right? I hear this all the time. So basically, I can't get money unless I have access to money. Well, isn't that just the way life is? Well, it's actually not that bad at all. You just have to know how to get the credit initially. Once you get vendor credit, the rest falls into place. It's not knowing how to access the vendor credit where you get stuck, and that's when you get stuck in this paradox where you can't really get approved because you need credit to get credit. And this is where people fail. They go into Lowe's, they go into Staples, they go into their bank, they apply, they have no credit, the bank pulls their EIN, they see they have no credit, they get denied, and then they throw their arms up there and go, oh, I knew this business credit thing didn't work. See, that's what I said. But the reality is, if you had credit, you'd get approved. The paradox is that you've got to have credit to get credit, and that's really what we're going to be talking about here in the second part of this webinar. But again, there's no need to get lost or stuck. Building business credit is actually quite simple. Once you understand that there's a path you must follow, same path Apple followed, same path Facebook followed, same path any company that has corporate credit follows, a certain order of credit to apply for. And once you follow this order and get your profile and score started, then more and more sources will issue you more and more credit. And when you have 10 or more trade lines reported, the real world of business credit opens up and you get the big reward, which is cash credit. But without question, getting your initial credit is the hardest part. It really is. I can tell you, you need 5 trade lines to get to store revolving credit. I can tell you, you need 10 trade lines to get to cash credit. But the reality is, the only really difficult part of building business credit is initially getting approved for the initial trade lines that give you the profile and score. Once you have the profile and score, it's all downhill, because then you have a hook for the lender and credit issuer to hang their hat on, a reason for them to want to approve you. So we now know that we need vendor accounts to start a business credit profile and score. But now what you might not know, and you're about to, is that you actually need a total of 5 of these accounts or payment experiences reported to start getting revolving store credit. I'm making a shift here. I'm no longer going to refer to these anymore as trade lines, because in the consumer world, we often call them trade lines. But in the business world, we refer to these as payment experiences. And I want you to be exposed to all that terminology, because if you hear this out there when you're applying, you need to know what trade lines are and what payment experiences are. And a payment experience is the reporting of an account to a business credit reporting agency. So if you get approved with a vendor who reports to Dun & Bradstreet and Experian, 2 of them, that would actually count as 2 different payment experiences. But if that account only reported to one, Dun & Bradstreet, that would count as 1 payment experience. So a payment experience is the reporting of an account to a reporting agency. So if an account reports to 3 reporting agencies, that would be 3 payment experiences. Now, why is this important? Because if I tell you you need 5 payment experiences, I'm not actually telling you that you need to get approved for 5 accounts. Not at all. What I'm telling you is that you need to find however many accounts you need to have them report to 5 reporting, or a total of 5 reporting instances of reporting to the business credit reporting agency. So if you get an account that reports to Dun & Bradstreet and Experian, woohoo, congratulations. You just got 2 payment experiences out of it, because that one account reported to 2 reporting agencies. So you'll need 5 of these payment experiences to start getting approved for revolving store credit cards. These are the Lowe's, the Home Depot, the Staples type of actual credit cards. Again, Home Depot has some other requirements, not a good example there. So let me say Lowe's, Best Buy, Amazon, Staples. You've got to have at least 5 payment experiences to start getting approved for this kind of store credit. What do I mean by store credit? Credit you can use in stores. This isn't a credit card like, you're not going to get a Staples credit card and go into Office Depot and use it. You can only use it in Staples. So when I say store credit card, that's what I mean. A credit card you could only use in that store that issued you the actual credit. Don't worry, we're going to get to cash credit accounts. But for right now, we're just talking about these store credit cards. So these are credit cards at places like Best Buy, Lowe's, Staples, Amazon, Dell, Apple, Walmart, and so on. And every one of these I mentioned offers this kind of revolving business credit. Then you'll need a total of 10 payment experiences to get approved for cash credit, such as Visa and MasterCard type credit. Okay, now I've always said before Discover and American Express, but right now Discover's pulled back. Discover's not really doing a lot in the no personal guarantee game in business credit. They'll probably come back to it, but right now they're not. So Visa, MasterCard, Amex, this type of cash credit that you could use anywhere, it takes 10 payment experiences to get. The kind of credit you can use in a specific store, like I get a Walmart credit card, I could only use in Walmart, not Target, that takes 5 payment experiences. And to get that cash credit that you actually want, the Visa, MasterCard, you'll also need to have one of these accounts, one of these actual store credit cards, have a $10,000 limit or higher, at least to start getting nice limits on cash credit accounts. So to get store credit, you need 5 payment experiences. To get cash credit, you have 2 requirements. You need 10 payment experiences, you need a $10,000 limit or higher on one of those accounts. Now, you might look at this and go, well, that ain't going to happen. Actually, welcome to the beauty of business credit. Per SBA, credit limits on business credit accounts are about 10 to 100 times higher than consumer credit accounts. This means it's much easier for you to get $5,000, $10,000 limit credit cards in 3-4 months even, which would be an impossibility in the consumer world. In the consumer world, it would take you years to get to a $10,000 limit account normally. In the business world, you could get there in 6 months or less. It's not hard to do. Dell commonly approves customers for $10,000 limits with established business credit profiles and scores. So it's actually not that hard to do. You could get to this point within 6 months. We've even seen clients get to this point in 4 months, where they're getting $5,000 and $10,000 Visa MasterCards using their established credit profile and score that only took them 4 months to actually build. So now that you're starting to uncover the secret formula for building business credit, let's revisit what not to do. Don't apply for store credit cards first. You're going to get denied. I cannot tell you how many people tell me they try to do this and that are convinced business credit doesn't work. Hopefully now, 33 slides into this, you've come to the realization it ain't going to work. You apply at Lowe's to start your business credit profile, they're going to deny you. Don't start going to your bank. If you walk into your bank, they're going to laugh at you. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? You're not going to give you credit for an EIN that has no credit. That makes no sense. So if you try to go into your bank, if you try to go into a store to start this process, you will be denied, guaranteed. Don't put your Social Security number on the application to start your business credit building. They'll pull your personal credit and require a personal guarantee. You need to understand one thing very, very clearly. If you put your Social Security number on the application, they're going to pull your personal credit 100% of the time. So if you don't want your personal credit to be pulled, if you don't want the credit to be reported on your personal credit, if you don't want to personally guarantee the credit, the answer is simple. Leave your social off the app. Then you force them to pull your EIN credit, and as long as you follow the steps we're outlining in this webinar, then you're going to have a credit profile score established so you can get approved. But if you put the social on the app, you're going to have your personal credit pulled, and if you have bad personal credit or challenge, you're going to get denied because of that, okay? So the key is to leave the social off the actual application. People commonly get confused here, and they say, well, hey, man, I built my business credit, and they still ask for my social. They're always going to ask for your social. You're never going to find an application that doesn't, because if you're willing to give it to them, why would they not take it? Think about it. You're willingly giving them your personal guarantee. They don't even need to ask you. Why? Because they've conditioned all of us that because there's a Social Security number field on the application, we have to complete it. None of us really even thought that we could fill out an application for money and not put our social there. That's crazy. That's beyond what we've been conditioned to believe. But the reality is that they're always going to ask for it, but if you leave it blank, they'll pull your EIN credit, and if you have established EIN credit, they're still going to approve you for money. It's just the key is you got to leave the social off once you have your actual business credit profile and score established. So to build business credit the right way, you must first start with vendor accounts. Then, when you have the necessary reported payment experiences, you can move on to store credit, next followed by cash credit. You can get vendor credit right now, immediately, today. Don't care if you're opening your corporation today, you can get it. It'll take those accounts 30 to 90 days to report, giving you a profile and score. All of them are different, as I'm going to walk in and show you here in a few minutes. So this is one thing you need to know. Dun & Bradstreet says it takes up to 3 reporting cycles for the reported credit to show on your report. That's why I will always say it takes 30 to 90 days. A reporting cycle, and I'm doing quotations with my fingers right now, a quote-unquote reporting cycle is a 30-day time period. So when Dun & Bradstreet says it takes up to 3 reporting cycles, they're telling you it could take up to 90 days for credit to report, but often it gets reported in the first 30 days. So if you go to get a vendor account with Laughlin & Associates and you use the credit, then Laughlin reports it, and up to 30, 60, 90 days later, you'll see it on your Dun & Bradstreet report, and then that begins the process of you having payment experiences, of you having established profile, and then of you being given an actual score. And again, with that profile and score, you can then start to get approved for the actual store credit with 5 payment experiences. And in total of about 4 to 6 months after starting this process, from inception, from getting your first vendor account, then you can start to get cash credit about at that point along the way. So 90% of vendors in this country do not report to the credit they issue. This is a very important statistic. I'm being very conservative here. Okay, everything I've seen on this topic shows 90 to 95% of actual vendors don't report. So just because you have credit with a vendor, that doesn't mean that they actually report the credit to the reporting agencies. This is why so many business owners think they have established business credit when they don't. I talk to a lot of people that are like this. I was at a convention months back in California, was talking to a guy about business credit. I was talking to somebody about business credit. This gentleman walked up and goes, "Oh yeah, I have that." I said, "That's great." I said, "So you have your own business credit profile and score where you can go into anywhere you want to get money and apply for credit and leave your social security number off the application?" And he said, "Well, no, I don't have that. I have a credit card with my business name on it." "Yes, you do. And you also provided your social to get it. Am I right?" "Yes." "And you personally guaranteed it. Am I right?" "Yes." "You don't have real business credit." I've talked to other people that say, "Yeah, I've been in business 5 years, 10 years. Of course I have business credit. I have vendor credit with like my suppliers, and I have vendor credit with like this guy and that guy." But then they're blown away and shocked when they pull their business credit reports and realize none of those people even report. So this is a good idea on why it makes sense to actually look at your business credit reports, okay, because a lot of stuff you think actually reports doesn't report. So you really need to find vendors who do report to the business credit reporting agencies. This is the hardest and most challenging part of business credit. It is. Once you accomplish this, the rest is downhill, but getting this is hard because 95%, which means out of every 100 vendors you find, 95 of the 100 probably don't report. Only 5 of them do. So it's hard to find that small percentage that actually does. But once you get past that major hurdle, it's much easier to take the rest of the steps to actually get your business credit. So let's take a look at some true starter vendors. These are people that will approve you for initial business credit even if you just have your EIN and have no credit profile and score established so far. Okay, so you've got to start a business credit profile with starter vendors. Okay, and I got to point that out because starter vendors are ones who will give you the initial credit even if you have no credit profile or score. I mean, there are vendors out there that just because they're a vendor, they still won't give you initial credit because you don't have enough established already. So again, starter vendors, when I talk about starter, underline, bold, like that's my sign it's important. The only thing that's more important on my slides is if it's red. If you see something that's bold, italics, and underline, that's like me saying this is really important, and then if I put it red, then it's like vitally important. So when I'm doing starter vendor accounts, bolded, italics, and underline, I'm telling you, you've got to find starter vendors. All vendors won't approve you. You got to find one that will approve you initially. Most stores like Staples will not give you initial starter credit, so again, don't even start applying there. So let's look at some of these vendors. Well, Lachlan Associates is one company, and I'm including their logo, so if you go looking online, you'll know you found the right place. They deal with corporate setup, compliance. They deal with minutes and all kinds of different things that you need for a corporation. They report to Experian. So if you've been paying attention, you now know that means that you would have one payment experience because they only report to one reporting agency. And just so you know, Experian is where a lot of the biggest underwriters of business credit cards report. For example, Citi is one of the biggest underwriters of business credit cards, and Citi only reports to Experian. So Experian is a really important credit reporting agency. And by the way, if you want to get your business credit reports, you can go to our main website, which is creditsuite.com/reports. And you'll be able to get your business credit reports, and you get a discount. We have like some affiliate relationships with D&B, Experian, and Equifax where you get a discount. So if you do want to look at your reports, you can go to creditsuite.com/reports, either get D&B, get Experian, or get Equifax, or I think I have Creditera there too, which gives you DMB and Experian. So I have all those links in one place so you don't have to go fishing, because you really should see what's on your business credit reports. And as you build business credit, now that you know moving to the next step is based on payment experiences, you have to be monitoring your business credit or you can't build business credit, because you have to see these payment experiences report to know when you have 5 or to know when you have 10 to move on to the next step. So Lockwin reports to Experian. They only require a 411 listing and an EIN. So this is how it's a real starter vendor. They don't require you have a Paydex score, a profile, a score established. They just want you to have a 411 and an EIN and you can get approved. And they report the credit in about 30 to 60 days. This is important. Some sources don't report as quick. Okay, one source I might show you here today takes 6 months to report. So these are the important things you need to know. Who they are, what they offer, who they report to, what's required, and how long it takes for them to report. And they offer net 30 actual terms. Quill. The offers office packaging and cleaning supplies. They report to DMB, and you've got to place an initial order with them. Okay, so if you have no trade lines, no profile, no score with DMB, then you might have to do 3 orders with them. So you might have to buy $50 worth of stuff, apply for credit, they deny you, you buy it using your own money. Okay, then you apply again, they deny you, you do it again. We sometimes find that with no credit profile, score profile, Quill will then require you to buy 3 things from them before they'll actually give you any kind of net 30 account. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. Lockwin & Associates doesn't have that requirement, right? Okay, Creditera doesn't have that requirement. It takes 6 months to report. So some of these, there's a trade-off. Quill's awesome because they sell office supplies, and everybody needs office supplies. You've just got this one little, the little tick that they have, which is that you've got to sometimes apply for credit multiple times and use your own money first before they'll apply you. Gimplers, work supplies and products, report to DMB, and again, do the same thing with them. You got to choose the Invoice Me option when you check out. You got to buy $50 worth of stuff. They're going to pull your credit. If they're not approved, then you got to do the same thing I just outlined. You got to purchase, keep choosing the Invoice Me, and usually after you do it about 3 times, they'll approve you for an actual net 30 account. Okay, Reliable Office Supplies Promotional, they report to all 3. That's a great trade line because they give you 3 payment experiences, DMB, Experian, and Equifax, all with 1 account. And the same thing I just told you. Okay, you got to apply with them. If they deny you, then you go ahead and you apply. You buy whatever you were going to buy over $50. You do this 3 times and they'll approve you. There might be some hurdles with these office supplies that I'm telling you, but they're great vendor accounts to start with because they sell office supplies and anybody could use office supplies. Okay, so things to keep in mind. So Uline, shipping and packaging industrial supplies. Okay, you've got to have your DUNS number first. They will ask you for 2 references and bank references for approval. And again, the first few orders, they might make you buy $50 worth of stuff 2 or 3 times before they give you your initial credit. Monopolize your marketplace. Everything you need to know about marketing in like a 10 audio CD set. They report to Experian. They are a true starter vendor because they really have no requirements. You basically just check out 4 equal payments of $59.99 option, and the first charge takes place in 30 days. They need a bank account, EIN, and deliverable address, and in about 30 to 60 days they report. So you see there's a give and take with vendor accounts. Some you have to buy stuff first. Some will just give it to you right away but take longer to report. They've all kind of got a give and take. With this, hey, maybe you have to buy whatever, $250 worth of marketing CDs you wouldn't have normally bought, but who cares? You're getting business credit established in the process. And again, there are other options I just went over where you don't need to make that kind of purchase. So remember, you're going to need a total of 5 payment experiences to start getting store credit. I just supplied you 10. If you just go back and if you attended this webinar throughout its entirety, which you are, then I'll send you a playback of this. Well, then I just gave you 10 payment experiences. I just gave you access to double what you even need. Find the credit you want, apply without using your social, get approved, start using your credit, and pay your bills early. And as long as you're doing that, then you're going to have good business credit. It's as simple as that. Okay. Then watch your business credit building in real time. Here's that link I gave you, creditsuite.com/reports. And if you do this, then you follow these steps, and congratulations. you're well on your way of getting business credit. Now, you can check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel because I've got a lot of other stuff you really should pay attention to. For example, one of my videos talks about setting up business credibility. It's a first essential, crucial step you have to do first. You can't even apply for vendor accounts until you make sure you make these credibility guidelines they have. So check out my YouTube channel because I have more vendors available on there. I've got, access to actually the rest of the steps, how to get store credit, how to get cash credit, videos on how to build your credibility, all those type of things there. You could just check out my YouTube channel. You could easily just go to YouTube and type in business credit. I've got like 5 videos on the first page, or just type in my name and you'll easily find me there. And you're well on your way. So keep going. People ask me, how long does it take to build business credit? It's a never-ending process. You keep going. You keep building business credit. You keep applying for more. Your credit limits get higher and higher and higher, and this is how you ultimately end up with millions of dollars in actual credit lines. So I hope you got something valuable out of today's webinar. I really tried to outline exactly how business credit works, compare it to consumer credit, which you're already familiar with, and even give you the actionable steps to get in there and get vendor credit accounts. Even gave you access to 10 payment experiences, double what you need to start a business credit profile. So now you're well on your way of moving forward and building your business credit. And just remember, if we can help you, if you'd like to hire us to help you with the business credit and financing, offer business credit and financing for your customers as a turnkey service where all you do is just sell the service and we do all the work, then we have a lot of those kind of options available. Check us out, creditsuite.com/business credit. You can also send me an email with any questions. I don't have time on this webinar for questions because I have a webinar at 3 o'clock in 3 minutes. But you can send me an email, ty@creditsuite.com. Give us a ring at 877-600-2487. Or, again, check out our website, creditsuite.com/business credit. And if you did get a lot of value out of this webinar, make sure you do find and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll find I have a ton. You'll be blown away at how much info I give you for free on getting money and credit. If you're even thinking about getting credit money for a business, I think you would probably agree when you check out my channel that there's probably no better resource of step-by-step information on how to accomplish what you need to accomplish than there. So check it out. So again, thank you very much for attending this webinar. Make sure you jump in. Don't delay. Get started with getting vendor credit. It's really the basis of building your business credit, and the business credit is the basis of real success in this country with any business. So make sure you get in there and get started building your business credit right away. Thanks everybody very much for taking the hour out of your day to attend this webinar. I know how valuable your time is, and I really hope you're leaving this webinar today with some really good, actionable information. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.